Hello world, Joe Strout here with another coffee break coding. It's going to be a quick one this week, but if you're watching this on a phone or a computer that's only got one speaker, this might be a good time to plug in some headphones or put on your earbuds because we're going to be talking about stereo sound, and in particular, how to make a sound as though it's coming from a certain point on the screen. So let's dig right in. So this coffee break coding, of course, is going to take place in Mini Micro. Fire that up if you haven't already and follow along. First thing we want to do is find a sound to play. So let's cd to the sys sounds directory and use dir to see what we've got. And then to preview these sounds, we're going to use the view command. A lot of people know that view can be used to preview images, but it can also be used to preview sounds. We can do view, for example, pop.wave, or how about a horn long note C4.wave. Those are all pretty good. But I think for today's demo, let's try bongo.wave. I'm hitting up arrow and then return to repeat the last command. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. So let's reset just to make sure that we don't have some previous program in memory, and edit to launch the code editor. I'm going to start with a clear command, clear the screen. Sys sounds bongo.wave. Let's just run that much. I'm going to hit Control W to exit, run to run the program, and now we have this sound object, and we can do Sound.play. And that's the same thing as what we were doing before with the view command. If we put an @ sign in front of this, instead of invoking the method, it just returns the method, a reference to the method, and then we can look at what the parameters are. And so when we call play on an object, it takes parameters volume, pan, and speed, which default to volume 1, pan 0, and speed 1. So if we can do sound.play, for example, 0.2, that's a very quiet sound. 1 is full volume, and then the second parameter is the pan. 0 is right in the middle. -1 would be all the way to the left, and +1 all the way to the right. So that's what we're going to use to make this little demo. So what I want to make here is a main loop that just waits for the user to click the mouse, and wherever they click, we play the sound. So we'll have an infinite loop while true. I hit shift return there, and it automatically inserted the end while. And now we can say if mouse.button, then again shift return. And here's where we want to calculate our pan and play the sound. But calculating the pan, that's kind of the big finish. So for now, to keep things simple, we'll just play it just like that. And then we want to wait until the mouse button is released. So we'll put another little while loop inside this while loop, while mouse.button, and to make it a one-liner, I'll use a semicolon, yield, and while. So this whole line will just make the script pause until the user releases the mouse, and then it'll go on. And before we finish our while loop, I'm going to put in another yield, and then end while. So the yield command just makes Mini Micro wait until the next frame, and frames happen at 60 times per second. So it's just a way to reduce the load on your computer when Mini Micro has nothing to do but wait until the next frame. So let's try that. Okay, it's working, but no matter where I click, it sounds exactly the same. And that's what you would expect because we're not doing anything with the mouse position yet. Now let's do that. Let's calculate a pan value from the mouse position, in particular the mouse X position. Remember that positions in Mini Micro go from 0 on the left to 960 on the right. The center horizontally is at 480. So if we subtract 480, if we divide by 480, then we'll get a value that goes from 0 to 2. And if we subtract 1 from that, it'll go from -1 on the left to 1 on the right. And we can play with a volume of 1 and that pan value that we just computed. Give it a try. And there we go. I hope you're listening to this in stereo, because it's working. And this is a really useful thing to do. I'm going to put the source code up while I yak a bit. Because if you're making a game where sounds indicate something like an enemy has appeared, or an explosion has occurred, or a fruit has appeared on the screen that you can eat, whatever it is. If you use this trick, then someone who's listening with earbuds or with stereo speakers will have that extra little subtle cue about where their attention should go, where on the screen that event has occurred. And that's really powerful. So I hope you'll incorporate this into your games. And hey, speaking of your games, this coming month, mid-April, there's a game jam coming up with prizes of $50 for first place, $30 for second place, and $20 for third place. So there's a lot of money to be won. But more importantly, there's a lot of fun to be had. Whether you've made games in Mini Micro before, or whether you've never coded in anything before, it doesn't really matter. You've got 2 weeks, and it's not that hard to make a game in Mini Micro, especially with the supportive community that you'll find on our Discord server and forums. Here's how you can find out more. First, go to miniscript.org. That's the homepage, always a good place to start when you're learning more about Miniscript. And if you scroll down, we have Miniscript forums. And on the Miniscript forums, here's the announcement for the Mini Micro Game Jam. The Game Jam is hosted at itch.io, as a lot of game jams are. So if you're familiar with itch.io and you're following the jam calendar there, you'll see this coming up. And there's a little countdown for how long until the jam begins. This jam will last 2 weeks, and here are the prizes and everything you need to know about how to join. If you go back to the home page, you can also find a link to our Discord server, and that's where a lot of Miniscript users hang out, and we'd be happy to help you out. While you're there, also check out the Miniscript book, Learn to Code in 30 Days. And if you click on the Miniscript Press link, we have some other cool merch, like t-shirts and pop sockets. And all of this helps support the development of Miniscript, so I really appreciate your help. I hope you had fun, and I hope you learned something, and I hope to see you in the Game Jam next month. Happy coding!